Hi everyone, this is Ramesh from javaguides. In this video tutorial, we are going to develop a Todo app using JSP Servlet Hibernate and MySQL technology stack. So we are going to develop a Todo web application using JSP Servlet Hibernate and MySQL database. And here are the simple features that we are going to implement. That is add to do, update to do, delete to do, retrieve to do, and list out all to dos. So look at the Todo app here. So this is the screens I have captured. So I have already developed this Todo app, and I have captured all the screens of a Todo web application. And this is the list of to-dos page. And look at here, the list of to-dos are in a table, and here is a add to do button. So we can use this add to do button to create a new to do. And in a actions column here you can see edit and delete actions. So we can use edit button to edit a particular to do, and we can use a delete button to delete a particular to do. And look at here the to dos. So this is the to dos link. So whenever we are in a edit or new to do page, then we can click on this to dos link so that it will navigate to the list of to dos page. And this is the header and this is the footer. All right. So we are going to use Bootstrap CSS framework in order to style our web pages, and we also use Bootstrap CSS framework to develop our web application as a responsive. So we can responsive, it will support many devices like desktop, laptop, and pad and mobile devices, etc. So this is the list of to-dos page, and look at here, this is the add new to-do page. So here is the to-do title, to-do description, to-do status, to-do target date. So these are the fields we need to enter whenever we add a new to-do. And this is the edit to-do, so we can also edit the to-do. So this is the typically CRUD operations we are performing on to-do entity. So we can use a add to do button to add the to do, we can use a edit button to update a to do, we can use a delete button to delete a to do, and we can also list out all the to dos in a table like this. Great. So now so far we have seen the screens that we are going to develop in our web application. Now let's have a look into the class diagram. So look at here, this is the class diagram, and this is a to-do controller. This is typically a servlet which will handle all the web requests, and this is a to-do DAO interface. It has a CRUD operations for to-do entity, and to-do DAO IMPL is a class which implements a to-do DAO interface, and to-do DAO IMPL class, it will provide implementation for all the CRUD methods for to-do entity. And this is the Hibernate util class. So it contains a Hibernate Java based configuration. So we basically configure session factory using JDBC JDBC URL, username, password, Hibernate dilate, etc. So we are not going to use Hibernate XML based configuration, we are going to use Hibernate Java based configuration. All right, and look at here, this is the to do JP entity. Alright, so we are going to use a Hibernate so we can directly persist our to-do object into a relational database table. Great. Now let's have a look into the tools and technologies that we will be using to develop this to-do web application. So we use Hibernate 5+ and JSP, and we use Eclipse IDE. So we use Eclipse IDE to develop this application step by step, and we use JDK 1.8 or later, and we use Apache Tomcat 8.5 to deploy our web application, and we use JSTL Servlet API, and we use MySQL database. Alright, so what we will do, instead of writing a line by line code, what I will do, I will clone the source code of to-do application from my GitHub repository. So I have already developed this to-do application and I have hosted source code of this Todo application on my GitHub repository. So I will just clone or download the Todo app, and then we'll import in Eclipse IDE, and we'll walk through the source code and we'll understand the flow, and we deploy our Todo application in Apache Tomcat server, and finally we'll see the demo. Alright, let's go ahead and let's implement these steps. So first step is we need to clone the Todo application project from the GitHub repository. So let me copy this link and let me go to the browser and let me clone the source code. So you can just open a browser and in a new tab just enter this link, and here you can see JSP Servlet Hibernate CRUD Todo App. So this is the project that we are going to have a look into. So I'll be providing the GitHub repository link in a video description, so you can just get this link from the video description and you can just open the browser, you can just clone it. Alright, so this project is a part of Hibernate ORM tutorials, so you need to clone the whole project. Alright, so you can either clone this repository by using this git link, or you can also download this GitHub repository as a zip file by clicking this download zip file. Okay, let me download the zip file and let me import in Eclipse IDE. So I have imported this JSP Servlet Hibernate CRUD Todo app in my Eclipse IDE. So what you can do is you can just in order to import this project, you can go to the file and import, and from the general you can choose the existing projects into workspace. Next, and you can just browse from the your location, and you can copy that projects into workspace here. Alright, so once you import the project in Eclipse IDE, let us walk through the source code. So first of all, we need to set up the database. So this is the important part. So before moving ahead, we'll set up the database. So as I mentioned, we are using MySQL database, so let me use a MySQL workbench to create a database. So I'm in a MySQL workbench. Let us create a database here. Just type the SQL statement like create database, and let me give a name to the database as a demo. So demo is a database, and refresh here. Yeah, here we go. So demo database created. Now once we create a database, then we need to configure this database in a Hibernate configuration. Alright, let me open the Hibernate util, and here look at here, I have already given a demo database name. So next step is we need to see the libraries. So look at here the libraries. So we are using JSP, GSTL, Servlet, MySQL connector, Java. So this is the MySQL JDBC driver to connect to the MySQL database using JDBC API, and we are using Hibernate. Alright, so these are the jar files that are required in order to develop a Todo web application using JSP Servlet and Hibernate. Great. So next step is the web.xml. So in order to define or declare the servlets, I am going to use @web servlet annotation. So I am not going to configure a servlet in a web.xml. Instead, I am going to use annotations here. So @web servlet annotation we can use to declare a servlet, and this annotation is processed by the container at deployment tab, and the corresponding servlet made available at the specified URL patterns. Great. So in a web.xml I have configured error page. So this is the error.jsp page. This is, and whenever exception occurred, then this page will be populated with the exception. Alright, next step is a model. So if you can observe this application, it is using a model view controller design pattern. Alright, so we have separated all the presentation logic, and we have separated all the model layer, that is the business logic, and we have separated all the controller logic in a servlet. Alright, so model package, it acts as a model layer, and here is a to-do controller, acts as a controller layer, and here JSP Pages acts as a view layer. Okay, so this is typically a web application which implements model view controller design pattern. Now let's first have a look into the to-do. So to-do is a JP entity. So if you are new to the JPA or Hibernate, so please visit my Hibernate tutorials, where I have explained you a lot about Hibernate Java class, and we are just annotating this class with the JPA annotations. For example, add entity annotation. So we use add entity annotation to declare a class as a JP entity, and we use add table annotation to provide a table related stuff like a table name, schema name, unique constraints, etc. And here we are using add id, add generated value annotation to define a primary key for the table, and also we are defining a primary key generation strategy. So right now we are using auto primary key generation strategy. Alright, so the name of the table is to do in this application, and look at here, id, title, username, description, target date, status. So these are the private fields, and we are using add column annotation to provide or to map a column name with the member variable of the class. And here we have created a parameter constructor, default constructor, as well as a getter setter methods to access these private fields. Alright, so this is the simple JP entity. So there are 4 rules to create a proper JP entity. So first is you need to provide a getter setter methods for private fields, and you need to have a default or no argument constructor. So next is the class should not be a final class, and you should define a primary key for the JP entity. So these are the 4 rules you need to keep in mind whenever you create a JP entity. Great. Now once the JP entity in place, let's have a look into the Hibernate Java-based configuration. So this is a very simple Java-based configuration. So if you want to know more about Hibernate XML as well as Java-based configuration, then please visit my Hibernate tutorials. Alright, so let me just quickly go through the Hibernate configuration here. So we are building a session factory object. So this is the singleton session factory object. So we are using this singleton session factory object throughout the application. So first we create a configuration object class, and here we create a properties object, and we set all the properties key value pair here. So here we are defining all the JDBC related stuff like driver, username, URL, password, and Hibernate dilate, and these are the Hibernate properties. And finally we set all these properties to the configuration object by using set properties. And here we use add annotated class annotation to add this JP entity to the configuration, and here we use service registry object, and we pass this service registry object to the build session factory method, and build session factory method returns a session factory object, and here we return the session factory object. It's a pretty simple Hibernate Java-based configuration. Now let's have a look into the DAO layer. So this is a to-do DAO interface. It exposes CRUD methods for to-do entity. So insert to-do, select all to-dos, delete to-do, and update to-do. And this is a to-do DAO MPL class which implements this interface, and it provides implementation for all its methods. So insert to-do method. So look at here. So we are using try with resource statement in order to close the session object. So first we create a session object by using a session factory. So once we got the session object, then we can start the transaction, and we perform a database operations like save to do, and then we commit the transaction. If there are any exceptions within this try block, then that will be caught in a catch block, and then transaction will be rollbacked. Alright, so next is the select to do. So it's very simple. We just need to pass a to do ID here, and again the similar steps, like we need to get a session object from the session factory. We start the transaction and we get the to do by using get method, and we commit the transaction, and finally if there are any exceptions in a try block, then that will be caught in a catch block, and then transaction will be rollbacked. So now select all to dos. So similar steps, we get a session object, we start the transaction, we perform some database operations, like here we are retrieving all the to dos. So here we are using Hibernate query language statement. We are not using SQL statement here. So if you want to know more about Hibernate or query language, then visit my Hibernate tutorial section. So once we got all the to dos, then we commit the transaction and we return the to dos. So delete to do. So delete to do, we need to pass the ID here, the particular to do ID, and that to do will be deleted by using delete method. So first we get a to do object from the database table, and then we delete that to do object by using delete method of the session object, and we commit the transaction. Similarly for update to do, we need to pass a to do object, and we use save or to do method to update a to do into a database, and then we commit the transaction. So these are the CRUD database related operations for to do entity. It's very simple. Next, let's have a look into the to do controller. So this is the servlet, and here we are using add web servlet annotation to declare a servlet, and so this servlet handles all the HTTP requests, so it should extend HTTP servlet. Alright, so this to do controller acts as a page controller or a front controller for the application to handle all the requests for the to do. And here we are using a switch statement. So in a switch statement, we are handling all the actions or all the requests. So new, insert, delete, edit, update. Okay, so in case of new request, so this will simply create a request dispatcher object, and it will return a request to the Todo Form JSP page. Alright, so whenever we hit the URL which has a new action, then this will call this Todo Form.jsp page. So we are just forwarding to this page. And insert to do. So in case of insert to do, we retrieve all the to do details from the request object, and we create a to do object, and we pass to the insert to do method to save this to do into a database, and then we redirect to the list page. And in case of delete to do, so we are getting an ID from the request object, and we are using delete to do method to delete this to do, and then we are redirecting to the list. So in case of list, it will come to the default here because list action is not here, so it will come to the to do list method. Okay, and in case of edit, so first we get ID from the request object, and then we get a to do object by using that to do ID, and then we create a request dispatcher object, and we forward this to do object to the to do form JSP page. So we are going to edit the to do, right? So for that we need a to do object, so that we can get a to do object from the database by using select to do method, and then we set that to do to the request object by using set attribute, and we can get this to do from the request object in a JSP. That I will show you a bit later. Next is the update to do. So in case of update, we retrieve all the request parameters from the request object, and then we create a to do object, and we forward that to do object to the update to do method. So update to do method will update this to do into a database table, and then we redirect to the list. It's a very simple I have already explained step by step writing a code in my previous video tutorial, so you can go through it. Now it's time to have a look into the view layer. So first we will see the common JSP pages, the header and footer. So in header we just create a header and we just give a link as a Todo App, and in a footer we just create a footer and we provide a bootstrap CSS classes. It's very simple, and these are the separate JSP pages so that we can reuse these pages in all the corresponding JSP pages. So these are the common, so we can make it as a separate file and we can include in a respective JSP files. So now let us see the Todo JSP pages. So this is a Todo Form JSP page. It's very simple. So first we need to add a bootstrap min.css file here. So instead of downloading a bootstrap CSS files from the website, and we need to keep in a project and we need to give a path here. So to demonstrate this web application quickly, I have used CDN links, and here is the header. So instead of this header you can use a common header.jsp page here. So we can remove this header and we can include this header.jsp page here. So we can include a header.jsp inside this Todo form.jsp like this, and if you click on here it will navigate to the header.jsp page. And look at here, this Todo form.jsp is used for two purposes. One is to add the new Todo and update the Todo. So based on the condition we have so based on the condition we can submit the form. So if the Todo is not null, then we can update the Todo, and if Todo is null, then we insert the Todo. And look at here in a caption. So if the Todo is not null, then we display the text edit Todo, and if Todo is null, then we display the text add new Todo. And similarly here are the Todo fields. So Todo title, Todo description, Todo status, Todo target date, and where we have applied some CSS classes, bootstrap CSS classes like form group, form control, form group, form control for all the input fields. And finally we submit the Todo form, and here we have included footer.jsp page. So very simple Todo form. So remember, Todo form JSP is used for two purposes. One is to add the Todo and another is update the Todo. And Todo List JSP page. So again we can remove this header and we can include header.jsp page here. So this is the Todo List JSP page, and again in a header section we have included bootstrap min.css file, and it has a table, and we have provided some bootstrap CSS classes. And here is the row with the headers with a header title, target date, Todo status and actions. And here we iterate over a Todo and we display a Todo in a list. And look at here, these are the actions: edit and delete Todo. So we can use a edit to edit a particular Todo and delete a particular Todo by using delete button. So this is a very simple Todo form and Todo List JSP pages. Now we have covered all the code. Now let me just deploy this application and we will see the demo. So if you don't understood any of the flow or any of the file, so let me know in the comment section. I will try to clarify your doubts. So in order to deploy this application, first you need to configure Apache Tomcat server in Eclipse like this. and then we can right click on the project, run as, run on server, next, and in a configure section here you need to keep a Servlet Hibernate CRUD Todo App here, and then hit finish. And let's wait for a moment. The Tomcat server will take few seconds to deploy this application. Oops, so already some application is working, deployed on port 8080. So let me quickly fix this. Alright, let me rerun this application. Run as, run on server. So we no need to manually create the users table, to-dos table, because Hibernate will automatically create a to-do table in a database. So Hibernate provides a lot of features to work with the database. So if you don't know the Hibernate, then please visit my Hibernate tutorials section where I have explained all about Hibernate. So look at here the console. So Hibernate has created a table to-dos, and so here is the link. So let me copy this link and let me open this in a browser so that we can see the demo properly. So in a browser, open a new tab and hit this link. So here we go. So this is the list to do page. So this is the screen that we have seen in a presentation, right? Now let's add a to do. So click on add to do button, and let's go and let's add a to do. So I want to learn Hibernate, so let me add a learn Hibernate action item in my to do list. So in the description, just give Hibernate framework and examples. Okay, and by default to do status in progress. There are two status, one is in progress and complete. So whenever you complete this to do, you can mark it as a complete. So by default, let's keep it in progress, and target date I will give end of this month, and save it. So here we go, the to do is added to the list. Now let me create a few more to dos. So I want to learn Spring Core, so I will add this to do, and I will give next month date here, and I'll save it. And let me add one more to do, learn Spring Boot, and in progress, and I will give a target date as next month 20. So now I have created 3 to dos. So let me edit one of the to do. So learn Hibernate. So I will edit this and I will say learn JPA with Hibernate implementation, and I will save it. Yeah, here you can see. So look at here the to do status column. So in progress means it is false, and whenever you complete the to do, then it becomes true. Okay, so let us say consider we have completed this to do, learn Spring Core. Then I can edit this to do and I can mark this status as a complete, and I can save it. And look at here, the to do status is true. It means that this to do is completed. So this is how you can edit the to do. You can also change the target date, and you can also change the to do status, to do description, etc. So this is how we can add the to do, we can edit the to do, we can delete the to do, and we can list out the to dos, and we can also complete the to do. Alright, and look at here, this is the to dos link. So we can click on this link. So whenever if I go to the add new to do page, then if I click on to dos link, it will navigate to the list of to dos page, and this is the header and this is the footer. So if you have any queries or doubts, let me know in the comment section. So you can clone the source code of this project from my GitHub repository. So I have already mentioned a GitHub repository link in a video description, so you can get it and you can just clone the source code and you can import an Eclipse IDE and you can follow this video tutorials to understand the source code, and you can deploy it in a Apache Tomcat server and you can just play with this Todo application. Alright, so I hope you like this video tutorial, or you will find this video tutorial useful. So consider subscribing. Whenever I will publish a new videos, then you will get notified. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.